Hello, good evening. This is Kenya Rockman. I'm the author and founder of the Child Support Hustle and the Reform Child Support Now movement. I hope everybody is doing all right. I'm doing good. Thank you. I am going to talk about today, just like it suggests, about paying parents receiving at least some of these tax credits that are being paid out. And what sparked this discussion is that I was on Twitter, and thanks for joining, guys. I was on Twitter and I saw a tweet, and the question was, why do parents without full custody think the child tax credit should be a replacement for child support? I thought it was interesting, of course. Um, I thought it was interesting because parents are already not allowed to claim their children on their taxes unless they have written permission from the custodial parent that they are too struggling to make ends meet. I'm saying they're too struggling to make ends meet during the pandemic, which is one of the reasons why they are sending this early or advanced tax credit. So first, I want to go over what the tax credit is and what's the purpose in the first place. According to Investopedia, the child credit is a tax benefit granted to American taxpayers for each qualifying dependent. It's designed to help taxpayers support their family. The credit has been greatly expanded by the American Rescue Plan, a Rescue Plan Act of 2021, and it's estimated that the new rules will reduce by 45% the number of American children living in poverty. I like it, sounds good. So let's start with the first one, and that's that the tax benefit for American taxpayers with qualifying dependents. The IRS states that let me turn the chats on. I don't know if you guys said anything. I always forget to turn them on. So the IRS states that because of the residence test, which says that, quote, the child must have lived with you for more than half of the year, end quote, a child of divorced or separated parents and the qualifying child of the custodial parent. So they have to live there half of the year. So statistically, custodial parents tend to be mothers, and fathers are the ones ordered to pay child support. In fact, in 2018, 4 out of every 5, or 79.9% of the 12.9 million custodial parents were mothers. So they're going to be the ones that can claim the children as dependents. Fathers are not permitted to either claim their children on their taxes, even though many pay up to 65% of their income. I've talked to parents that have paid up to 70% of their income. Thanks for liking. Thank you. And if they allegedly owe arrears, they do not receive a tax income because the money is garnished for child support debt. So they not only cannot claim their children as dependents, even though they're paying, they also are being garnished, so they only get an income tax refund. On the other hand, these fathers are American taxpayers. They're saying, this act is for American taxpayers. So this is again an example of the father being considered less than or second class because they don't have custody of their children. And we can blame that on the bias that happens in the court and in this whole system. They are or at least trying to provide for their dependents because their children are still their dependents, even though by definition, because they don't live under the household, but they're still taking care of them financially. And just because in some cases, custodial parents are unemployed and should not receive a tax benefit, that benefit should be paid to the paying parent, or at the very least, the child support payment should be reduced because they're the one paying out. So they should at least get some kind of relief when it comes to the tax credit. Next, the tax credit is designed to help taxpayers support their families. not only do paying parents need to support themselves in order to pay support that sometimes they can't afford, they often have a spouse and other children. So they have another family that they have to take care of as well. So that begs the questions, why is that family being ignored because of child support? And that happens all the time, where the first child on the order receives the largest amount of that income, where the other children are splitting up that income, or they're not even considered. So you have the second set of children, if you will, struggling, while the first child or children are reaping the benefits of the tax credit, the income tax refund, all that. So there will be some that will say that the other family doesn't matter. And I hear that all the time. Well, my family, my child is first, they come first. But shouldn't all children matter? If we're talking about taking care of the children and making sure that no child lives in poverty and no child is left behind, why should one household reap the benefits of a child tax credit while the others don't? Is it fair to take money out of one household and put it in another if both households are struggling? Is it fair for two parents to work and support their children and pay bills in their household and have to pay out more than half of their income to another household that is not forced to work and that is able to receive support and a tax credit? Of course not. And I'm not speaking on emotional. I know I spoke on this before. A lot of what happens in the child support and family court system is emotional, but I'm speaking on facts. This is what they are saying this package, this act is for, but it should go all the way around. It should not be exclusive to one household, because that parent, because the mother traditionally is the one that gets custody of the child, so they can reap all the benefits when the father is the one that's paying. And if he doesn't pay, he's going to be punished. Hi, Stephanie. Hey, Johnny. So the system literally takes money from the working parent and gives it to the non-working parent, and is now going a step further with an advance on the tax credit. And yes, at the end of the year, the refund will be less. But by right, if the paying parent is the working parent, he and sometimes she is the one who deserves the tax credit. I mean, when you say it out loud, I mean, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just how my mind works, but if they're working for the money, they should get the tax credit, or at the very least have their child support reduced. And I'm gonna get to the child support part of it, but this is just part of the money that's going out. So if there's arrears, if there are arrears owed, they deserve to have at least that money subtracted from the overall debt amount. So when they're paying that $300 per child that's going out, so $900, do we know, have they said that that's going to be $900 that's going to be deducted from the total arrears amount? They haven't went there yet, but that's something that needs to be discussed, because if that debt is owed to the government, that should be some kind of credit that goes to the arrears that's owed to the government. Because as we know, this is a welfare recovery program. And we know that that is not going to be collected. That's mostly uncollectible debt. So, this is because the tax refund will be offset anyway at the end of the year. Thanks for joining, guys. If you can't give me a like, I don't know what you mean. Point, are you asking me what the point is, or you're saying I'm making a point, or? Yeah, these are, I mean, they have to discuss this, because this is deeper than just a tax credit. They're going to, in my opinion, just reading this and reading what they're putting out, they're making it, I think they're minimizing what's really going on here. Oh, okay. I'll say, maybe I should go into deeper detail. Thanks guys for the like. But this is a big deal, you know. I don't think they're actually going to come out and say, oh, this has to do with child support and everything like that. But let me get there, because, you know, I'll be all over the place. So I have to stay on task, especially when I talk about this kind of stuff, because I make notes. And of course, everything I'm talking about, I have the links in the description. I talked about the Rubio and I'll get there. Okay, so the next point, it says the credit has been greatly expanded by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This was all tied into the stimulus money, which they took that money too, right? They've been bragging about how high the collections have been, how record-breaking collections have been, child support collections, because they stole all this money from parents and they added it to this debt that government owed debt and all that kind of stuff. So of course the child support collections were going to be record-breaking. So this is all tied in. So I have put on here for the record, I think that the ARP, this plan is great, but I don't think it's enough. And I think that it's horrible that there hasn't been any significant discussions about this unconstitutional child support system, besides that what Senator Rubio, Marco Rubio out of Florida, has said about child support and the act. I made one video, I thought it was a couple, but I made one video and I put that in the description as well, discussing Senator Rubio's feelings about the tax credit. And according to the recent press release from his office, here are some of the issues and why he opposes it. And this is what I was jumping ahead of, but this is what I was talking about. He says the new government child allowance scraps incentives for marriage. It destroys the child support enforcement system, and it abandons requirements to work. Hey, boss at home. Okay, so people are probably like me saying, you know, who is he to tell anybody that they need to get married? That's one thing, like these politicians being everybody's business to the point, like, I mean, okay, some people don't want to get married, but that's neither here nor there. But as far as destroying the child support program, his main gripe is that parents will be able to sit at home and not work, collect money from the government, all while not being forced to establish child support orders. And remember, that's the backbone of the child support system. When people go on welfare, they have to sue the other parent for child support. So he's saying basically you're going back to the old welfare system. But he's saying if people are allowed to sit at home and collect this money, this child allowance, tax credit, and get their money early, there's no reason to go and apply for TANF. So that will essentially destroy the child support system because there's no tie to that welfare program. And he has a problem with that. And I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it, but that's where it ties into where child support needs to be discussed. Like that's why I say this is a big deal, because this is temporary right now. But if this is made permanent, they're going to have to do something about, you know, how this is going to be incorporated. Because the 300, you're talking about if you have 3 children, that's what, $900 a month. Why would you go and sign up for TANF benefits that you might not get? And if you're in a place like Mississippi, I think their monthly benefit is $177 for a parent and 2 children. Why would you sign up for that? Why would you sign up for child support if you don't have to? So even though these are tax credits and not welfare, Rubio is concerned that these tax credits are made permanent, that people will not, I just said that. So I jumped ahead of myself. And I agree, child support will be destroyed because of that one mandate. They won't have to participate in child support. So let's take what the tweeter said in why do people think that the tax credit is replacement for child support? Because that's essentially what it is. People have to always remember that even though they like to package child support now as a family-centered program, child support is a welfare recovery program. If you go and look at how they presented child support 15 years ago, is welfare recovery. It was all about getting money for the state. But now if you go and look, now they're talking about family-oriented, family-centered. they're trying to change the narrative to make it look like it's about the family, because there's not a lot of people on welfare like there once was, because they put time limits and things like that. So they're going after non-TANF people because the numbers of welfare recipients have declined. So now they need new victims. So that's why they try to package it like it's family oriented. Oh, we care about the fathers now, which they don't. They're just trying to get you down there to sign to volunteer, because they want you to volunteer for this. That makes it easier for them. It costs less money. They don't have to negotiate with you. They don't have to sue you if you volunteer for that program. That's why I keep saying it's voluntary, because if not, they have to sue you. They have to get jurisdiction over you. They have to do a whole thing because it's a civil lawsuit. I know people like to go back and forth. No, it's not. No, it's not voluntary. Yes, it absolutely is. They can say all they want. It is. So it's being rebranded because the number of TANF cases has decreased because of the strict criteria enforced against people applying for TANF. With the sharp decline in cases, they have to find new streams of revenue, which means recruiting non-TANF parents. Next, most child support cases involve low-income parents because it's welfare recovery. And these kids are aging out, so they need new people. Most child support debt is owed by poor people. When you look at the money that's owed to the state, it's owed by low-income people. The recession, the pandemic, advocates against the child support system, social media especially is a big one. Many elements have forced the government to restructure the way that safety net programs are handled. So what they were doing for these 30 years that this system has been in place, they really can't operate like that, right? Because they've been exposed. So what they were doing, like their status quo has been, locking people up and everything that they were doing without giving people the right to due process, without notification, doing the default judgments, process servers lying. So many people, especially through social media, have come together and exposed their game. So they have to restructure this. So that's why I'm saying things are changing. It's not going the way that maybe we want. Some people want abolishment. Some people want this. And I often said when I started, if they just follow the guidelines as they are written, this will clean up this system. And really they could go after people that abandon their children. If they really went by how the guidelines are set up, they could really do what the system was set up to do. And I said that very early in this. And that's what is going on now. They're actually, they just put out the attorney manual. I think it hadn't been updated since 2002 or something like that, for the first time in all these years. And basically they're putting in there what they've been supposed to have been doing since day one. So if this tax credit is made permanent along with the other provisions, this allowance may very well be the replacement of child support. That's my opinion. The system was unsustainable then, and it is now. But because of how they package it, the deadbeat dad was the villain, the criminal, the second-class citizen who deserved every punishment that he received. So that's how they were able to get away with this for 3 decades. But the system is unsustainable, and it's finally being realized after all these years because people don't have any money. We've been still paying taxes all these years. Just think, when they reformed these systems, taxes did not go down. Actually, they went up, but the safety programs went away. You couldn't get all these programs. They just, disappeared, but they kept taking our tax money. So they got plenty of money, but no safety programs, safety net programs. So they have to do something because the money's gone. So yes, this tax credit should be considered a replacement for child support. It's time for parents, especially low-income parents, in order to pay support, to get some relief and get back on their feet. We definitely don't want this to happen to the next generation of parents. Okay, so finally, it was estimated that these new rules will reduce by 45% the number of children living in poverty. If you remember, if you old like me, if you remember, they sold the country on welfare and child support reform by saying they were doing that because it was going to reduce child poverty. But in 2000, a couple years after the reforms, child poverty was 17%, and in 2019, child poverty was 17%. That's after all those policies, after child support, after all those years, it was still the same amount. It was still the same number of children struggling with child poverty. So it sold us the pipe dream. So that's what I'm saying. When they say it's for the kids, it's for the children. No, it's not. If it was for the children, I promise I would shut up. Oh, shut up. But I do not like the way this is going. I don't like people being preyed upon. I don't like people's rights being violated. I don't like bullies. And this system is all of that. So I'm gonna go over some stats that we want to look at, since they're saying this tax credit is going to reduce poverty for the kids. So nearly 1 in 5 children of color in America, that's 20.5%, were poor. This is now. Children of color were 2.5 times more likely to be poor than were white non-Hispanic peers. 3.6 million children under 6 were living in poverty in 2019. Nearly 1 in 6 infants, toddlers, and preschoolers ages 0 to 5 were poor, 15.4%. More than 1 in 4 Black children, 26.5%, and 1 in 5 Hispanic children, 20.8%, and American Indian, Alaskan Native children, 20.6%, were poor, compared to 1 to 12 white non-Hispanic children, 8.3%, and 1 in 14 Asian, Native Hawaiian, and other Pacific Islander children, 7.7%. Nearly 1 in 6 children under 6 were poor in 2019, and almost half of them lived in extreme poverty. More than 25% of Black children were poor in 39 states and the District of Columbia in 2019. Hispanic children in 22 states, and American Indian, Alaska Native children in 24 states. Black children are more likely than white children to live in states where the benefits for TANF, that's welfare benefits, the nation's core cash assistance programs, are lowest. To counter that, and they are really want to help lift children, if they want to help lift children out of poverty, they would pay 100% of child support collected on behalf of these children receiving TANF benefits to the children. Currently, only half of the states pass through child support collected to families on TANF. They pay between $50 for one child and $200 for 2 or more children. The remaining jurisdictions refuse to pay any child support to the children that money is collected on behalf. Colorado is the only state that currently passes through all child support collected on behalf of the children. Georgia claims that it passes through collections up to the unmet need for purposes to fill the gap budgeting. But for the past 5 years, the state has reported passing nothing. They passed zero through to over 19,500 current TANF cases in their state. So that's how many open cases they have, but we don't know how many children. And they say that they pass through, but they don't. So as you can see, when they pass a bill like this one, the payout for temporary tax credits to custodial parents, non-custodial parents should always be considered. The entire Ponzi scheme called child support is based on them. How much money non-custodial parents make, where they work, if they can work. All that should be considered. Not until recently was the government forced to recognize that paying parents are American taxpayers as well and are supposed to be afforded the same rights as custodial parents, even when they don't have full custody. I know, y'all. I don't know why I have to say that. I don't know why y'all have to say that. But apparently we have to say parents paying child support are taxpayers too. If they don't have custody of their children, they are still taxpayers. They still have rights. Okay? So I know that was a lot of information. Thanks for rocking with me. I know some of y'all been here since the beginning. I really appreciate y'all sticking with me. I'm happy to see the changes that have been initiated. I'm glad that they updated their attorney's manual. I'm glad that they are at least acknowledging that they need to change. They need to follow the guidelines, because like I said before, I was all abolishment, but now doing this for so long, I know and I recognize that some people need the mediator. They need the court system. You know, they need somebody to be that buffer and that's in the interest of the best interest of the children. But not everybody needs that. And not everybody should be forced to participate in a program that, in my opinion, robs parents of so many rights. They don't even want to acknowledge parents as taxpayers and citizens, full citizens. So hopefully with the changes that they are making and acknowledging rules and guidelines that have been in place since 2016, some since 2014, and to see it actually in a manual, that they'll actually start following their rules and things will start getting better. I don't know. But I'm hopeful. But change is still happening. Hopefully these credits will be more permanent. So Rubio's prediction will become a reality and the child support system will be destroyed once and for all, as far as the parts that don't go. But the parts that work, because it you know, for the parents that need it, it should be a system that works for the children. But what they are right now, it's not working. It's really a destroyer. So let me see if I have any questions before I go. Thank y'all for tuning in. Okay, well, thanks for joining. If you want to get my book, The Child Support Hustle, it's available on my website, thechildsupporthustle.com. If you want a t-shirt, I happen to find a red one. I used to sell red ones back a long time ago. But I do have black and I do have gray. And I have a lot of articles on the website. I put our links so you can follow on in the description. If you need to reach out to me, you can reach me at cshustle1@gmail.com. We're going to have a podcast coming out very shortly. So if you want to be a guest, you can reach us at admin, ADMIN, at thechildsupporthustle.com. Somebody will get back with you. You just send like a brief description or a summary of your situation, and somebody will get back with you. I think that's it. I thank you all. Keep fighting. Remember, they can ignore hundreds, they can ignore thousands, but they cannot ignore millions. Let's go.